What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Formula America podcast. We're your host, Kurt and Dylan. Today, we are here to discuss not just this Lewis Hamilton move into Ferrari, but what this might mean for Ferrari and mainly Charles Leclerc, because I don't know if this is necessarily the best thing. It could be, but I don't know. We'll discuss that. Also, we've got the FIA last week came out with new regulations regarding drivers and their naughty language and their bad foul mouths. And so we're going to discuss that as well, because FIA is starting to overstep a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll get into that. Let's start with the Lewis and Leclerc thing. First of all, we've officially got Lewis in red. Lewis in a full 9-piece tuxedo taking a picture in front of an F40 in front of Enzo's house.
Did you see all the people that were looking into that and trying to find like all the symbolicism behind like the seven windows
and
the door leading to the 8th championship?
Yeah.
One of the windows was open. I forget what they were saying about the window that was open. Like, it's like, I don't know if it was that deep. Maybe it was, but I think it was just a badass picture.
I think it was a badass picture. I'm also so sick of all the tabloid. Lewis Hamilton is buying Enzo's old house and like all of the other stuff that goes with it. It's like, no, he's not. No, shh. Like,
let us enjoy this moment. Yeah. I think that it's so cool, that one video they put out to see him pull out of the garage and you see the 44 on the side of that red Ferrari. That was when it's like, oh man, that's crazy.
And the yellow helmet with the Ferrari emblem looked underneath his little emblem looked really cool.
Yeah. This is it's wild. You could tell these are like pivotal moments right now. Like
even he said that.
Yeah. I mean, this, like you said, this has been a dream of his since he was a kid. He wasn't sure it was going to happen. I can only imagine when he first put on that race suit for the first time and then he looks in the mirror. Could you imagine the feeling? Like, that would be like, I made it.
It's not like the completely bland white race suit they gave poor Carlos back at Williams.
They're like, oh, Carlos, your stuff's over there somewhere. Just
we
find
forgot you were coming.
It's crazy to see the difference on how their arrivals at the teams have been treated.
Yeah.
I feel like Ferrari, I feel like their social media has stepped up to a different level, like welcome Lewis. Like they know that now they have to be this social media beast. And I got to say, I think they're doing a great job.
They are. I mean, ever since Fred Vasseur came to that organization, I think it's really taken a step up across the board. And you know, that's not all Fred. That kind of seems to be the delineation, you know, from the SF1000 and the debacle of 2019 season and how bad it was. And like it's been some down years and it's definitely on an upward trajectory and they're doing better and better and better with it.
Yeah. Hey, I told you, I was just online trying to buy a Ferrari hat. They teased me with the new Lewis Hamilton hat and it's not online yet. So I'll get it when it comes out.
And Lewis has got Angela Cullen back apparently.
Yeah, man, that's incredible. Like the band is back together. I want to know the true story.
Yes.
I want to know what happened with that.
Because she very kind of quietly yet very publicly rode off in the distance, and it was like
during the season too.
Yeah, and it you know, for a lot of people, it's like, oh, going on to do bigger and better things. But as a physiotherapist, I mean, being Lewis Hamilton's, I don't know that there is much bigger and better.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no bigger or better than that.
No, I just wonder if she was as sick of his whining as the rest of us were.
Well, now she is back. We got to see her in the garage. And so I don't know. This is good. I hope.
The memes have been great. My favorite one so far is Lewis going, all right, guys, is it hammer time? And then the pit wall going, we are checking.
I really hope. That's why I'm so like nervous. I think this is the one storyline for 2025 that makes me kind of the most nervous. Like, is he like, I really want him to do well. I want him to do great. But also I think that kind of leads into today's topic, which is like the waves that this is going to make and what this is going to do, I think, to Charles Leclerc, because this is kind of a pivotal moment for him as well. You know, going from kind of the de facto number one, hell, he's the predestined.
Yeah.
And now he's got Lewis Hamilton coming. So he's going to have to kind of, you know, Lewis isn't going to be a number 2 driver. There's no way. So I don't know. This is going to go either way for Charles Leclerc here.
Yeah, I think this is Leclerc's do or die. This is his opportunity to show that he is the predestined, the new kid on the, or he's not really the new kid on the block, but like the talent, the guy to go forward, or he's going to crumble under Lewis and that's going to be it. Like, I don't know. Lewis is a total wild card on how well he will do, but it's Lewis Hamilton. Like, he's going to get a lot out of that car. I don't think that this is bad for Leclerc. I think this is just his opportunity. Like,
I was questioning it today. I was thinking about it and I was wondering, I know there's a huge upside for Ferrari to bring Lewis, like how we've seen their stock has jumped up since he's got there. The buzz around the team is like at an all-time high. I feel like right now they've got probably, and we'll talk about this when we do our driver pairing lineup. But they've probably got the strongest driver lineup right now.
Yeah.
The only thing that's untested is how they're going to work together, which is, I think, the issue. But for Charles Leclerc, you know, being the predestined, being so young, being the fact that he's been the Ferrari golden boy for so long, I feel like this could have some really bad effects on his future if it goes wrong. Because this has to be handled very carefully, I feel like, by the team.
Yes and no. Yeah, I do. I know what you're saying and I agree, but I also, you know, Lewis Hamilton isn't Ocon. He isn't Max Verstappen. He isn't one of those teammates that I think is going to try to bully or you know, not take team orders and not be a team player for Leclerc. Lewis is probably one of the cleanest drivers out there. Like, I really think this is the opportunity. I would take the total Mercedes approach here and say, hey, if y'all are free to race, like, we're not playing. The only way we're playing favorites is whoever's in front is going to get the favorite pit stop strategies. Y'all are going to figure that out in quali. You know, I would play it really objective and say, let the best man win. And let it kind of sort itself out on track. I think both Leclerc and Hamilton have the highest odds of that working, as opposed to a Verstappen or an Ocon or a, you know, K-Mag or, you know, pick another driver. So it'll be interesting. I think if Ferrari plays it well, plays it straight, I think they've got a really strong lineup and a good chance.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen them do that in the past with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. They've told them, be like, hey, keep it clean.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, don't take any unnecessary risk. I feel like Lewis Hamilton, the way he is coming into this team, he wants to get that 8th title. He's at the very end of his career. He's probably only got 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't see him giving much grace, but I think that, like you said, he will be fair. He's going to be tough, though. He is going to be a very strong competitor, especially against Charles Leclerc. But I think that they do have the ability to keep it clean. I don't think this is the Lewis Hamilton that we had back in the day with Nico Rosberg.
No,
so I think he's got enough experience.
Leclerc's not Rosberg either.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know,
Leclerc, like you said, is what he gets for being the nice guy. And so I don't know. This is, like I said, this is the one that really makes me the most nervous. I can't wait to actually see them on track and get to see how this actually plays out.
Oh, me too. But I think this is going to be, to me, this is Leclerc's, I don't know what the right word for it is, but like his make it or break it. Like, you either do well against Lewis Hamilton and become a future world champion, or you're right off into the sunset. Those are the two options. There's no in between.
It's like the cultures where they send the boys out in the woods to live by themselves and become a man. Like, this is your time. This is your test, Charles Leclerc. Like, all of those months of therapy that you went through back in the past is really going to show if it worked now, because you're going to be put to the test mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it.
All of it. And so here you go.
Like, yeah, put over, shut up, my guy. Time to turn into a man.
I think he's got that, you know, we keep comparing to others, or I do at least, like, he's got a better chance than if this was Red Bull. Like, I think Ferrari's going to let him race. I think Ferrari's going to let him have a go at it, and they're going to be fair to each other. Here's your chance.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's true.
So I don't think it's bad. I don't have negative connotation to it. I just have like a final opinion. Like, at the end of this, you'll be great or you won't exist. That's it.
Yep.
And that's all.
And I think a lot of this is also going to come down. It's not only going to test Charles Leclerc, I think it's going to really test Ferrari management.
Yeah.
And which obviously hasn't had the best reputation as of late, but I think that they understand. I think it was a calculated risk. They knew what they were getting into bringing Lewis onto the team. And I think that for them, it's time for them also to kind of put up or shut up, because this is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And you got Team LH, which is,
They've got
They
a
do.
car.
Yeah, they've got a good car, one of the fastest cars. And, Team LH is a very, very vocal fan base.
The Tifosi in general are vocal, plus Tifosi Team LH.
It's like all these worlds just colliding and being forced to get along and like play nice together. And I really cannot wait to see how this goes. And I really hope it goes well for both of these guys.
I am too. And we've said it before. I have no idea who's going to come out on top as a constructor this season.
No,
I don't even know how to start that prediction.
It's tough, getting ready for our team driver pairings podcast, going through and looking at, trying to rank the drivers, rank the pairings, and looking at where everything lies. It's so up in the air, and the way that everything is shifted around this season makes it that much more harder to kind of figure out and kind of predict on what's going to happen.
Well, and it's like, Ferrari and McLaren in my mind are on their upward trajectories. Like, they're going to be competitive. Mercedes to me is a total unknown, and Red Bull is sliding backwards. But they've got enough going for them where that might still mean they're very competitive, especially with Max Verstappen. And so it's just like, I don't even know where to start. Like,
I think the top four is going to be wild as far as constructors this year.
And then we have Aston Martin with Adrian Newey now and Whitley and like half of this other. You're like, man, I can't wait to see Aston Martin. I'm hoping on a steep upward trajectory. Like, poor Carlos, man. Poor Carlos.
I'm sure Carlos is sitting back. Like every time he opens his Instagram, it's Ferrari showing off their brand new shiny toy. And he's just like, que lastima.
Yeah. He said it best. Like, I think he said it absolute best. He was like, when I got the word that it was Lewis Hamilton replacing me, he's like, of course I was upset, but I understand. It's Lewis Hamilton.
I mean, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Like, and so he totally took that on the chin like a man, just to go relegated back to the back of the pack. And Carlos is one of the best drivers in the field right now. You're just like, I'm sorry, bud. Like, I like you too, but God, dog.
I think this is kind of Carlos's coming of age as well. I think this will test him and will make him a better driver, and he will be back. He'll be back somewhere.
I agree. So on that, let's talk about the FIA.
Man, and the FIA, I love the way, or I don't. I think it's funny the way that they tried to slide it in on the day that Lewis was doing his first test. So it's like everybody's looking over here, and FIA is like, I'd like to submit this document just real quietly. And then, of course, Eagle Eye guys online found this thing. It's wild to me that they are going this far.
It is, and the wording as to like the reasons why is wrong, I think, or not wrong, but just very political. So it's for those that have not heard, the FIA passed, and the FIA is the governing body of basically every racing series short of NASCAR. Like I don't even know who else isn't governed by the FIA in some way. So huge organization. This isn't just Formula One, but all racing outside of NASCAR. You could never pass this law in NASCAR. There'd be,
oh my God,
that'd be one of the most entertaining things ever. But,
Mohammed bin Sulayem would not be allowed back on track for his own safety.
But so the FIA passed a law that any swearing, do you have the actual, I should have had it actually.
I do.
Up there. What is the actual language?
Let's go over it. So basically, this is on their sporting regulation, and for anybody that wants to look it up, it is Article 12.2.1. And then there's 4 or 5 different points. So the first part says that any words, deeds, or writings that have caused moral injury or loss to the FIA, its bodies, members, or executive officers, and more generally, the interest of motorsport and on the values defined by the FIA. So basically, that one's stating that if you say anything that hurts their feelings or makes them look bad, and the offenses for this is your first offense is a 40,000 euro fine.
That's for F1 because it's the actual offense is lower. F1 only
10,000.
is 4x, whatever it is. So the offense is a $10,000 fine. Unless you're in Formula One, then it's a $40,000 fine.
Then it's 40,000 for your first time. If you do it again, it doubles. So it's 80,000 plus a month suspension, which is suspended. So it's like you get suspended, but it's not.
But we're not actually suspending you. We're just threatening it.
Right. But if you do it again, it's 120,000 plus a 1 month suspension
Plus,
and deduction of championship points. So not only can you not race for a month, which is going to be 2 races, or if it's a triple header, it could be 3 races, but then you also get championship points taken away. The next article is misconduct. It says any misconduct. So that one is kind of where I feel like the FIA is really kind of overstepping, because if you do anything that they define as misconduct, then it's the same problems or the same ramifications, 40,000 euros, 20,000, and then so on. But the other part about this is that it's not just saying things. Like if you post something on your social media, if you are, somebody films you out at a nightclub somewhere and you say something like, oh, F the FIA or something like that, and they post it online, then they can also come back and punish you for these. So they're kind of really taking it more so than just in the race. It's not just in your press conference. It's not just in your team radio. It's pretty much if you say anything and they find out about it.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, it's not even if you say it. What's weird to me in the wordings, it's not just if you say a naughty word. It's if you say anything bad that the FIA doesn't like, that they feel slights the FIA.
Yeah.
Which that seems way overly self-serving of the governing body and not in the best interest of the sport.
Yes.
Because, people making comments in F1 about certain things, if anything, adds more to the sport. More people come to the table, more comes to it. But if it takes away from what the FIA thinks is their overarching image, right? So it's not even, don't hurt the sport. It's don't be mean to the governing body.
Yeah. It's us. And so the other article that I think is pretty interesting is it says the general making and display of political, religious, and personal statements or comments, notably in violation of the general principle of neutrality, is some more words, but basically that's wrong. So if you can't make any political statements, so like is this like the whole We Race is One thing that they did back in the day?
Is that a political statement? Like
the FIA depends on, whose feelings they hurt at the time. And so the same thing, but instead of just the fines on this one, you have to do first offense is a 40,000 fine plus a public apology and a repudiation of the comments. So you have to come out and say, guys, I take it back. And you get fined. The fine can be suspended, and then it goes up. The same thing with 80,000 and then 120,000 and all that. But it's just like, I feel like it's getting to the point now where it's too much. And this obviously comes in response or retaliation of the letter that the GDPA put out, or the GPDA, Grand Prix Drivers Association, put out, where they're basically saying that they wanted, there's no clarification of what's right, what's wrong. These things are just being willy-nilly handed out.
So they gave clarification that is just carte blanche beneficial to the FIA governing body, not the sport of the drivers.
And the funny thing I find about this is I was reading a story, I forget which publication put it out, but they had talked to some other people within the FIA, and apparently this was not a unanimous decision. There was even people in the FIA that downright disagreed with this, and it still got pushed through. And so it's just another way to drive a wedge, I feel like, between the FIA and Formula One.
And that's what's weird. I don't understand why the fight with Formula One. Formula One, by miles, is the revenue generating arm of the FIA. They are the business, and probably the only part of the racing industry that could break away and run on its own. So I don't know why you'd want to continue to drive a wedge in your number one, business line, if you will.
It's almost like they're trying to exert their power and show them how powerful they are. But like you said, and that's something I think that's worth a discussion too, is, okay, so what would it take to break off? Because I was thinking about it. I don't think it's quite as simple as just
never is
breaking off and just, handing out your own penalty points and doing that. Because if you look at what the FIA does, like, they are the ones that are, they're doing the scrutineering. So they're the ones that are checking the tracks, making sure they're up to code.
They rank all the tracks on how good of a track they are, how technical of a track they are, how safe of a track they are. You have special ratings to have F1 races there.
So one thing I would like to know, and I think this might be a big one, is the tracks have contracts. So like you got Spa that I think they just re-signed their contract.
2031.
Is that contract with the FIA or Formula One?
Yeah,
Because if it's with the FIA, right, if Formula One were to break off, does that mean they have to find all new tracks now that aren't under contract? And so, I think that could be a really big part of it as well.
I don't think anyone I don't want Formula One to break off. The system works. It works well. There's always things that need to be tweaked and bettered, but I don't get this big flex by the FIA. And my bigger question for like this scenario is, what about when you're in the car with a microphone on your mouth and you don't control what is aired? Right. So I believe it is the FOM is the governing body for what airs and what F1 is shown on TV and what radios are shown and all that good stuff. So like I don't remember what race it was, but they kept on airing Max saying cuss words and then went out afterwards and said Max saying bad words and us airing them is bad for the sport. And it's like, well, you're the people airing them. You could not air Max's radio. You know that, right? Like, so how can you take a driver in the heat of the moment, say a naughty word because you're doing 200 miles an hour and almost get ran off the road? You cuss, they review it, they decide to air it, and then they penalize that driver because that's where it's like, okay, in the press conferences, don't say a bad word. Got it. But like, what about in the heat of the moment? Let's go put a mic on any soccer player, football player, and see if they're always saying nice words to each other. Like, it's not a fair. How does that work?
Yeah. And I think that's the problem, because going by the wording on this new regulation, you can't say whether they air it or not. Even if you're not being aired and they're able to listen into your conversation and you say something bad, if you got MBS walking by the paddock and hears you cuss in the garage,
they could penalize you for it.
He could penalize you right then. Especially if you're Max. He seems to have something against Max. And so it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's an overreach, I feel like. And I'm anxious to see what the response is going to be from the drivers. Because
especially, they're not going to. Can you imagine if this was 21 going into the final race and you take away a world championship because someone said a naughty word? Like, seriously, that's what you're capable of doing right now. It's wild. It's wild. And I'm curious to see how the drivers respond, because they're not going to take this sitting down. There's we've already seen Max. Oh, of course, George will. George is going to. George is the one that probably gave the FIA the idea.
George is going to be walking around with a microphone on, just like, what'd you say, Max?
Say that again, a little louder.
That's how he's single-handedly going to win the championship, by getting everybody else to get points taken away. But and so there's some drivers that I think, Lewis for one, Max, Fernando, they're always the most outspoken, and I feel that they're definitely not going to take this laying down. So I'm anxious to see how it's going to come about, like what their response will be, because it's been almost a week now.
I hope they have a good response. I hope they don't take it laying down. There's a big part of me that wants them to just come out and everyone say a cuss word every other word just to tear down the whole system and to show how dumb it is. But that's the petty child inside of me.
Yeah.
But I think they have every right to come out and be like, no, we're not playing this game.
There has to be some sort of pushback. It's too much. It's an overreach. It's egregious, and it's not a good look.
It's not good for the sport.
And I'm wondering if when the FIA president, because they have to be voted in, I believe. So I'm not sure. I was trying to look up and see when his contract is actually up, but I wonder if it'll kind of be walked back when he's actually gone. How much of this is actually just him?
It's every 4 years. An FIA president is limited to 3 terms, meaning they can serve a maximum for 12 years.
Okay.
Running for election again in 2025. So this year is voting year.
Yeah. So I wonder, especially if he's doing things that, apparently, like we were saying, not everybody in the FIA agreed on this regulation. So I'd be interested to see how that vote's going to go down, and if he's going to be there again, because this is his first term. The last FIA president, he was there for Gene Todd. He was there for 3 terms.
Yep,
before years. That, Max Mosley was, oh my God, Max Mosley was there from 1993 to 2009.
Yeah.
So that was a long time. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't think anybody within the organization does. And curious. I'm patiently waiting for a response.
And
I'm
I
sure
think it
George
could have
Russell
been handled better. If you wanted to just say, hey, if you're saying things that damage the sport, we're going to penalize you. Most people, I don't think, would argue. But if you say mean things about the governing body, we're going to take away world championship points. All right, easy there.
Yeah, cool your jets, MBS.
So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out. I hope the drivers push back in a professional way, but do push back and push back hard. And I hope we hear about it. So much of this stuff happens behind the scenes. Like, Formula One is a veil inside of a veil inside of, if you're not on the inside, you don't know what's going on. So it's hard sometimes.
Yep. All right. Well, oh man, that's enough of this rant. It got me heated about this. I didn't realize I was so passionate about this thing.
Man, just bringing it back home. I'm borderline going to be a Lewis Hamilton fan this entire season at this point, especially if we don't have whiny Lewis. If we have hammer time Lewis, yeah, I'm here for it. Yeah,
for sure. I'm definitely a Lewis fan. I'm hoping that if Ferrari releases this gear soon, because I want him to get me a hat. I'm sure it's going to sell out immediately.
I'm sure they're going to be $150 a piece. But
they are.
But I'm excited for this season. So we got our driver predictions coming up. We've got our preseason predictions coming up. We've got a month until preseason testing. Just over a month. Like we're
55 days until the first race in Melbourne. All right. Well, I think that's probably going to do it for this, and we'll be back in a few days to do our team driver pairings, unless something else pops up again, because that was going to be today's until this popped up. So we'll be back for that. Otherwise, make sure you check us out on YouTube, Formula America Podcast there, and Formula_America on Instagram. And other than that, I think that's all I got. Dylan, you got anything else?
That's all I got, Kurt.
All right. Well, on that note,
stay classy, America.
We'll see you next time. Make sure and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Share with a friend. All that good stuff. All right. We'll see you next time.